Good evening, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Wanted to get on tonight and talk to everybody about the dangers of the terms and conditions that have been applied to our lives. And so I wanted to start out with, of course, as you see, the post says land, air, and water, generally. So let's take a look at that term, generally. Couldn't get my camera to turn around. And here is going to give us military, rank, and ecclesiastical. Affecting or concerning all or most people, places, or things, widespread. Books of general interest. Things that are similar, widespread, of course, they already said that. Common, extensive, universal, wide, again widespread, popular, public, mainstream, prevalent, prevailing, rife, established, public, established. So let's not forget private as well. Well established, as I said, privately. Conventional, traditional, traditionalist, orthodox, accepted, in circulation, currency, in force, in vogue, comprehensive, overall, across the board, blanket, umbrella, mass, total, complete. How can it be complete if oil and water can't mix and we have both public and private? So I'm not pointing out to you people what the word means. What I'm doing is pointing out the inconsistency in posting a bunch of other people's definitions or synonyms. But we use this in whole, in completeness, to get a better picture for ourselves so we can ascertain as certain the wholesale, sweeping, panoramic, broad-ranging, extended, inclusive, all around, generic, outright, encyclopedic, indiscriminate, Catholic. If it's indiscriminate, why are they saying only Catholic? Why are they particularizing Catholic? Why are they localizing Catholic? Why are they restricting it to Catholic? Again, why are they restricting it to public? This is a very dangerous term here. All. As in Genesis. Where does it begin? Not specialized or limited in range of subject, application, activity, etc. As in brush up on your general knowledge. Means miscellaneous, mixed. Public and private. Catholic and Muslim. Catholic and Jewish. Baptist Catholic. Protestant Catholic. Amish. mixed, assorted, variegated, diversified, composite, heterogeneous, hetero. Opposite is a specialist, species. Of a rule, principle, etc., true for all or most cases. Normal or usual. Similar is usual. Customary, customs. Custom discussion. Common, habitual. That which is you and your actions in the habitat. Your environment, which is habit for you. Repetitive, traditional, normal, conventional, typical, standard, regular, familiar, accepted, meaning already accepted, prevailing, routine, run-of-the-mill, fixed, set, as set, put, lay, or stand, as set, asset. Established, confirmed, every day, not yesterday, not tomorrow, today, and forevermore. Ordinary, common, stock, well worn. What I'm doing is I'm showing the inconsistency, Edward. If we're going to learn how to define ourselves, we have to look at how inconsistent they are. And for our own selves, as certain, the general meaning for ourselves, the genesis meaning for ourself. Consider or including the main features or elements of something. Not the data elements of their customs. They have certain borders that they protect. They're never going to be able to protect your border. That's in effect what they're doing, is violating your border by you importing. I'm going to show you here in a few. You're the ones importing the data elements. Therefore, you are the ones exporting the elements that they're assuming are yourself. Broad, imprecise. Imprecise is the Attorney General. Imprecise, inexact. Rough, sweeping, overall, loose, basic, approximate, non-specific, unspecific, vague, hazy, fuzzy, woolly, ill-defined. Ill-defined, that's a nice one. 42 U.S. Code 1395X. Definitions, spell of illness. When we were in that spell of illness, which is merely the inpatient procedures that we were provided through the service of the hospital, which is a military generally, and then the data elements that define the illness. The person is ill-defined. It is non-specific, unfocused. It's a ballpark range. A commander of an army, or an army officer of higher or a very high rank. Okay? That's just a general definition that you get in your general search engine when you put in general definition, and it's the first general definition that pops up. But it gives you a broad spectrum that if you look it up further in Webster's, dictionary.com, dictionary.cambridge.org, you're going to find a lot of the same common synonyms. So let's look up Black's Law Dictionary, and it tells us, like I said, it's from Latin, from the word genus, genes, not species, but genus. It relates to the whole kind, class, or order, like, image, in likeness and image, like, kind, class or order, pertaining to or designating the genus or class as distinguished from that which characterizes the species or individual. Universal, one verse for all. What language are we speaking? Not what language are we generally writing according to a Latin word origin, but what language are we speaking? Do our actions speak louder than our words? Is that the character? Does the shadow, the species or individual, fall in harmony with that which characterizes the data elements that distinguish your genus and not some species? As opposed to special, principal, or central. Do you have a center of balance, center of gravity and all that? Do you know where you're at? Do you know what's central to your feelings, to how you feel about everything? Not your opinion, but what you feel. Where does that come from? Does that come from your heart? Does your heart have its own mind? As opposed to local. The local community, open or available to all. Would that be all the travelers? As opposed to select, the society within the community that has that border, obtaining commonly or recognized universally, as opposed to particular. Universal or unbounded, as opposed to limited, comprehending the whole or directed to the whole, as distinguished from anything applying to or designed for a portion only. Well, that's kind of vague if it can't be particular when it's trying to distinguish anything applying to or designed for a portion only. It's kind of vague. Just as we saw earlier in the other general definition. Vague. Very vague. It's a circular word. As a noun, the word is the title of a principal officer in the army. Usually one who commands a whole army, division, corps, or brigade. In the United States Army, the rank of general is one of the highest, next to commander-in-chief, and is only occasionally created. The officers next in rank are lieutenant general, major general, and brigadier general. Bridge. What's bridging the gap? Generally. Is it something major? Is it because you are a tenant in lieu of that species? Are you a general tenant in lieu of something? I'll show you where I'm going with this, folks. Them data elements you've been giving, regards to shipments, foreign trade zones, manufacturer, name and address of the entity that last manufactures, assembles, produces, or grows the commodity, or name and address of the party supplying the finished goods in the country from which the goods are leaving. In the alternative, the name and address of the manufacturer or supplier that is currently required by import laws, rules, and regulations of the United States may be provided. May be provided. Why is it telling us the manufacturer or supplier may provide the name and number, or name and address? This is the information that is used to create the existing manufacturer identification number, the MCO, MSO, for entry purposes. The name and address of the last known entity by whom the goods are sold. The manufacturer sold them to an importer named the United States, or agreed to be sold. If the goods are to be imported otherwise than in pursuance of a purchase, the name and address of the owner of the goods must be provided. A widely recognized, commercially accepted identification number for this party may be provided in lieu of the name and address. As a tenant, can you give a number in lieu of the name and address? Buyer, name and address. Wait a minute here. Let's first read this. Let's finish this. Except as provided in as otherwise provided in paragraph B of this section, the following elements and the requiring data elements must be provided for each good listed at the 6-digit HTSUS number. That's the Harmonized Tariff System of the United States. At the lowest bill of lading level. They're telling you it's a bill of lading right off the start, okay? Everything is a bill of lading. If it's imported with a 6-digit HTSUS number, it is a bill of lading. Look at your certificate of live birth, people. Little red number at the bottom of the page, left-hand side. The manufacturer or supplier, country of origin, and commodity HTSUS number must be linked to another at the line item level. Okay? Buyer, the name and address of the last entity known to whom the goods are sold, the United States, or agreed to be sold, if the goods are to be imported otherwise than in pursuance of a purchase, the name and address of the owner of the goods must be provided. A widely recognized, commercially accepted identification number for this party may be provided in lieu of the name and address. This is telling you you do not have to give the name and address of the buyer, but the name and address of the last known entity to whom the goods are sold or agreed to be sold. Or agreed to be sold. If you're not buying them, can you give the name or the number in lieu of the purchase? In pursuance of a purchase. In pursuance of a purchase. Rather than just going out and buying it and having to provide the name and address by a check or some other negotiable instrument, or having to fork over hard-earned cash, can one just, in pursuance of a purchase, offer a number in lieu of the name and address? Importer of record number, Internal Revenue Service, IRS number, Employer Identification Number, EIN, Social Security Number, SSN, or CBP, Customs and Border Protection, assigned number, that's the widely recognized commercially accepted number for this party, may be provided in lieu of the name and address, which is the HTS-US number. May be provided in lieu of the name and address. On the certificate of live birth, there is not a name and address. There is an identification. There's a title. I don't know if you can call it a name, and I don't know that there's an address on there. Of the entity liable for payment of all duties and responsible for meeting all statutory and regulatory requirements incurred as a result of the importation. If the United States is the one that's importing it, they are the one importing it. If you are the ones that are giving the data elements on a purchase agreement, you are then agreeing to be an importer and operator of a foreign trade zone by the application of identification number when you turn around and further give a Social Security number. With that name and address, you're providing two capacities. Just like when you write a check and you write the number as well as write it out in English. You have an option here, people, of one or the other. You can exchange one in lieu of the other. For meeting all statutory and regulatory requirements incurred as a result of importation. If you purchase an automobile directly from the automobile manufacturer, there is no importation documentation. If the import or the manufacturer is located within the same borders. What are the borders of a private agreement? What are the data elements of a private agreement? They certainly don't include an EIN because it's not the manufacturer that requires the EIN, Social Security number, CBP, or name or address. They want a name and address, and you can give them one, but it does not have to be associated with an EIN. It does not have to be associated with a Social Security number, and it certainly does not have to be associated with a CBP. That would be their involvement. They're interjecting themselves as officious intermeddlers into a private agreement. Comprehend this stuff, people. When we think about the military force, the United States, I don't know if you can read this little thing up here, but it says United States Office of Personnel Management. And this is not law. This is their policy on data and the oversight of that data and the way they police it. And this is talking about the general schedule, which is your GS1 through GS15 for military schedule payments. And they use the word locality, as we saw here. It's something that's local, even after they said global, or excuse me, opposite is localized. And here they are using it for locality and not generally, but particularly. And then they lay out those particulars. Albany, Schenectady. Is that common English? Nope. It's all fictional. Where is it? Where's their oversight? Where's their locality? So we go on to the next one I pulled up, and this is in regards to the 5 stars, 1 through 5 stars, and this and that. Your pay levels, these are your rank levels. We have it for Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard. And remember, we have land, air, and water. The Army is the land. Marine Corps, Navy, and Coast Guard are water. Air Force is air. Land, air, and water. Those are your separate divisions. However, when we think about this, this is all under a corporate fictional entity the way we see this. And that's why we have our land, air, and water ambiguous and separated into 5 different classes or orders. So we have to observe this. This is not factual in regards to the land, air, and water generally. They have diverted things here. When they divert them further, we have private. Again, this is the enlisted pay grade. Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. Private, Seaman Apprentice, Airman, Seaman Apprentice, again, Navy and Coast Guard, and Private First Class. Private being coming from the naval force to the water onto the land. That's your connection for the Marine Corps. And then your Navy can be flown out. It is an actual land force itself that can be flown out from the land, or a military force out on the water, or directly relative right next to the coast. That's why it's positioned as a connector here. Comprehend the structure. Comprehend the origin. Comprehend the superiority of how far they go. You know, now we're getting into the E5s, and we've got Sergeant, S-E-R-G-E-A-N-T, S-E-R-V-E-A-N-T, servant. Sergeant is literally servant. I assure you that is actually servant. Servant. Petty officer, 2nd class. Staff servant. Petty officer, 2nd class. E6, staff servant. Petty officer, 1st class. Technical servant. Petty officer, 1st class. All classes and orders. As we go up in order, E7, Sergeant 1st Class, Gunnery Servant, Chief Petty Officer, Master Servant, Chief Petty Officer, Master Servant of the Air Force, 1st Sergeant, 1st Servant, Under Master Servant, Master servant here, master servant. Senior chief petty officer. Senior master servant. Senior chief petty officer. First servant. Servant major, servant gunnery servant. Or master gunnery servant. Master chief petty officer. Chief master servant. Master chief petty officer. See how they're changing the orders throughout all these different ranks? Command servant major. Age of majority, maybe? Servant major. Fleet command master chief petty officer. Look at this. Sergeant major. Warrant officer. Chief warrant officer. See where their words are coming from? Second lieutenant. Tenant in lieu second. Commander. Colonel. The hell's a colonel? A kernel of corn? Captain. Cap. Cap. Helmet. Tain. Hold. What's held in the helmet? Well, mine's the helmet of salvation. It holds wisdom. That is the captain. See, I don't use their BS. Now we're getting there. Brigadier General. Admiral. You know why Jesus how Jesus was supposedly able to walk on water in that concept? It was because he admired and respected his Father which art in heaven. That's called reverence. Reverence. And we talk about those who we revere as those of the people that are reverent of a church. You know, the pastor, the father, the matriarch, patriarch. It's not about a singularity. It's about the whole. It's not about one major general or one general major or rear admiral. It's about what do you admire? What's in the mirror? How do you tear apart what the word is? Wikipedia, Admiral of the Fleet. When we talk about the 5 stars and stuff, these are your 5-star people. The Field Marshal of the Armies. General of the Army. General. Is a military rank. And it's a 5-star rank. Admiral of the Fleet is a 5-star rank. As we go down, Marshal of the Force. Marshal. Marshal literally stands for horse servant. Horse servant. Like I said, the Air Forces extend from the land. Before anybody could get to the shores of the waters and profess any forces of the air in modern times, they had to use horsepower, whether it was by a vehicle of modern times or a vehicle of natural elements. And you go down in rank, Lieutenant General. Like I said, you're the general tenant in lieu of the name, address, and number. Generally. Let's start acting naturally. Okay? What are majors' responsibilities? Majors are commissioned. Go back here and we see these are commissioned officers of things that are comparative military ranks in English, known as armies of the land, navies of the waters, air forces of the air. and they are commissioned. If they take upon that title, Field Marshal, Admiral of the Fleet, I'm not an admiral, but I most certainly do admire and respect my Father which art in heaven, and the army of angels that he sent forth with, and gave me the helmet of salvation to wear over this cap, and to hold it there. And I'm vested with the breastplate of righteousness, that of the word in my heart. And that's the truth, that's shielded by the faith and welded by the sword of truth, cinched up with the belt of truth, as I walk in the gospel of his boots, or in the boots of his gospel. I don't need their categories, their classes, their definitions. They're all fake and fictional. They're in regards to data elements. When we think about the data elements and the mission I'm on, and this is in Title 36 of the U.S. Code, or Code of Federal Regulations. Title 36 is in relation to parks, forests, and public property. The land. It's in regards to the land. Okay? First and foremost, if they want to assert any navigational jurisdiction, they first have to have control of the land and be able to go forth and raise a flag in peace upon another land in order to convey that peace. If they don't have control of the land and they go out and they bear a flag of piracy, foreign lands will recognize them as pirates on the water. Okay? Same with the air. When they go out in the air, whether it be from the land or from a naval ship, what are the authorities for Part 1223 in relation to managing vital records? The authorities for this part are 44 U.S.C. 3101. Records management. Whose records are they? They seem to be the records of the U.S. Code, public printing and documents. Public printing and documents. Records management by federal agencies. Record management by agency heads, captains, and general duties. You know, custom duties, where they're required to collect data elements, import data elements, and if you give them those data elements, you are the exporter and you are responsible for the duties, taxes. You are responsible to pay them for doing the collection of the data elements you so willingly give them. Because you are giving them records. You are recording. You are revoicing. You are respecting. Management by agency heads. Record, review, chord, reverse. The verses you speak are chords that they love to hear, and they will listen for them. That's their general duty. They will look for them. That's their general duty. They will observe them. That's their general duty. Every time you step forward in a muscular contract and willingly give them data elements, you're proving that you are on the same primary mission of essential functions of identification and submission process. These regulations are in conformance with guidance provided in Federal Continuity Directive. It is not a law, it is not a rule, it is just a Federal Continuity Directive. Federal Executive Branch National Continuity Program and Requirements, and FCD2, Federal Executive Branch Mission, Essential Function, and Primary Mission, Essential Function, Identification, and Submission Process. That does say Federal Executive Branch, Mission, Essential Function, and Primary Mission, Essential Function is the identification and submission process. Definitions: mission-related training. This is 5 Code of Federal Regulations 410.101 for administrative personnel. We are talking of the office, or the United States Office of Personnel Management. General duties of records management by agency head. And their mission, primary mission, related training, is training that supports agency goals. Not your goals, agency goals. By improving organizational performance at any appropriate level in the agency, as determined by the head of the agency. Agency means an executive agency as defined in Section 105 of Title V. Means an executive department, a government corporation, and an independent establishment. They are naming particulars here, and therefore these are not public in the value sense that they say they are. A corporation has a private entity about it. Means a corporation owned or controlled by the government of the United States. The government of the United States, the corporation is the United States. Government corporation means a corporation owned or controlled by the government of the United States. Corporation. It's a runaround. It's a circular statement that is false. It is presumed that you will assume that it is true. Executive agency can't execute anything. The executive agency can't give a wet ink signature that applies to a single man. The executive agency can't give a wet ink signature that applies to the one living being from which all the data elements thereof are collected. Can't be done. What is your mission? What is your mission? Is it to follow the Code of Federal Regulations and their definitions, or is it to find your own mission? We'll try this one. This is basic definition, and this is from Bible Study Tools. Generally, I try to get them out of King James Version, but this one doesn't have it here. So I imagine this is also coming from a different dictionary other than a Bible. But it says mission is the divine activity of sending intermediaries, whether supernatural or human, to speak or do God's will. Speak or do. Actions speak louder than words. Speak or. You can do one or the other or both, but it is to speak or do God's will so that His purposes for judgment or redemption are furthered. So that His purposes for judgment or redemption are furthered. Every last one of their laws has to have this in there. Part of their mission is to judge through the data elements, the risk management. That's their risk management, people, is the redemption. They don't want you being able to walk without their insurance. They don't want you to be able to realize your muscular contract without some kind of insurance. The biblical concept is expressed by the use of verbs meaning to send. This is your passport, people. Again, Psalms 121 verse 8, the Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore, because He is there to send you. You are present. You are present. In the now time, you were present. He sent you. You are on that mission currently. This time, from this time forth, furthered, forth, from this time forth, and evermore. There is no stop. That's the mission. Normally with God as the expressed subject. Normally with God as the expressed subject. Anytime they take an oath to that mission of the federal executive branch. The Hebrew verb is salah, and the Greek is apostolo, where we get apostle from. The terms emphasize the authoritative, commissioning relationship involved. Commission. In regards to these guys, oops, wrong one. Their commission is converted as an emolument. Their commission is a commission. They get a salary, a set of wages. That's why they have the ranks. That's why they have these. Because they don't admire the true source of the true mission. The scriptures also employ the cognates apostolos, apostle, the one sent, and apostle, apostleship, the function of being sent. I am not performing trade or business, which is the performance of the functions of public office. I am specifically on a mission, sanctified and ordained as a prophet. Referring to the one sent and his function. I was sent, and my function is the gospel of his word. The biblical concept of mission comprehends the authority of the one who sends. Before I knew thee, I knew thee before I formed thee in the belly. Before thou wast castest from the womb, I sanctified and ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. The obedience of the one sent, a task to be accomplished. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth. The land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers and sojourners with me. So I go with him everywhere, and the power is his sovereign power, not mine, to accomplish his task, and the purpose within the moral framework of his covenant, that I accepted, his oath that I accepted, not some executive's oath to an executive branch mission, working of judgment or redemption. Mission in the Old Testament, the first records in biblical history of God sending in his banishment of Adam and Eve from the garden, and the angelic mission to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. The redemption from Egypt and the conquest of the land has its dark side. Judgment of the idolatrous nations Israel escapes from or displaces. They displace you through all the languages, generalizing it. The emphasis, however, in Pentateuchal accounts on mission centers on God's positive action. Something that can be comprehended in all languages, people, right here. God's positive action. In securing a bride for Isaac and thus keeping the hope of the covenant promise alive for another generation, God sends his angels before Abraham's chief household servant to give him success on his journey. Positive action from Abraham to Abraham's chief household servant to give him success on his journey. These guys are operating in the courts as some kind of chief household servant by their ranks and orders. Okay? But again, remember, Romans 13 verse 1, there's only one power ordained of God, and that is the power that is ordained of God. He's the one that sent that power. You can't misuse his power against others. That's wrong. And in the fourth generation, it says Joseph, as he says to his brothers, whom God sent ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. See, this is where they're starting to tell us, the farther we go on in our own individual concepts of what somebody else means, and getting away from what we truly mean ourselves and what our mission is, and in following their mission, the farther we're getting away from that true mission, and the more, the less likely it is that we will be able to have redemption of that mission. That we will lose our own judgment. This is the purpose of the courts deeming us insane. They're saying that we can't judge for ourselves because we keep believing in their definitions when they know it's Babel. There was no specific call to mission, but he could look back on harmful circumstances and discern God's sending of him to Egypt to preserve the nation. He could observe by his own inactions that there are harmful consequences. Moses does receive a call from God, who sends him to Pharaoh to bring his people out of Egypt. God has heard their cry under Egyptian oppression and sends Moses as leader and redeemer. So closely are Moses and God's work identified that in some passages it is Moses who brings the people out, while in other places it is God. Again, people, I refer to the Bible quite a bit. But even in the concept of Jesus or Moses or God, it's not a matter of any one of them individually. It's a matter of how they operate together and how you see it. That's the true voice. No matter how you speak it, whether you speak it vocally, physically, all kinds of ways. And the way we do that is, again, we confirm it ourselves. Actions speak louder than words. We see, even in the Bible, it says, speak, or by the way we speak, or by the way we act. Not by what we write, not by what some other man writes, but how we observe things here, and then we can correlate it here so we can verbalize it. Whether it be through vocal speech or through actions. It's all very important. We have to have that major connection to generally have natural muscular contracts. If you're going to observe their words and see that has some kind of priority or superiority over that which is natural, then you need to get out of it. That's why I keep trying to show you all these definitions. General is one of those ones, like form. Well, what form are you talking about? Are you talking about substance form, written form, verbal form, vocal form, artistical form, musical form, scientific form, medical form? What form? What species? What genus? It's so ambiguous. And that's one of the reasons they use it in offer and acceptance in formation of contract. Contract. Con means with. Tract, despite everybody else's belief that it has to do with a tract of land, meaning a space in a dimension of visual aspect, its actual intent is time. It's a span of time. It's the space of time. See, when I'm done and gone, the tract of time that I was here will have a record somewhere. Now, will that record be mine or will it be somebody else's? If it's mine, will it have specific dates, or will those dates be denoted in English or German? Will it be denoted by numbers or by literal symbols? How will it be communicated? How will others observe my presence here now? Will it be a remembrance? Will they make me a member to a future time by telling a story of what I told them? This is literally what they're doing here when they talk about the next generations and they're teaching you in their public schools. They want to get rid of that mission and train you on their mission. All you guys that end up in jail and go to prison and have rehabilitation, it's habitual. They're trying to give you a habit, and while claiming that you have a bad habit, and they're going to teach you good habits. Short circuit, short circuit. What? It doesn't make any sense to me. So anyway, I hope you guys paid attention to this one. I'm going to come back with another one later on. Zoom meetings kind of fell off today, I guess. So I'll be seeing everybody later. But in the meantime, I'm going to be posting my other forum links. I will be posting my PayPal link. Please, people, understand I do operate on a doctrine of necessity just like you guys. It's the only reason I ask. So please, somebody, please hit that share button and send me some love. In the meantime, remember, it's also important the information and the videos on those other forums that I post. Share those as well. Share the information, share the videos, share the forum links. Get it out there. People need to learn this stuff. People need to be able to ascertain it for themselves. So again, remember, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless. I love y'all. Have a great night.